Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Livy dear, when we got out to the house last night, Mrs. Rogers, who is up and around now, didn't want to go downstairs to dinner, but Mr. R. persuaded her, and we had a very good time indeed. By 8 o'clock, we were down again and bought a $15 box in the Madison Square Garden. Rogers bought it, not I. Then he went and fetched Dr. Rice, while I went to the Players and picked up two artists, Reed and Simmons, and thus we filled 5 of the 6 seats. There was a vast multitude of people in the brilliant place. Stanford White came along presently and invited me to go to the world champion's dressing room, which I was very glad to do. Corbett has a fine face and is modest and diffident, besides being the most perfectly and beautifully constructed human animal in the world. I said, "You have whipped Mitchell, and maybe you will whip Jackson in June, but you are not done then. You will have to tackle me." He answered so gravely that one might easily have thought him in earnest, "No, I am not going to meet you in the ring. It is not fair or right to require it. You might chance to knock me out by no merit of your own, but by a purely accidental blow, and then my reputation would be gone, and you would have a double one. You have got fame enough, and you ought not to want to take mine away from me." Corbett was for a long time a clerk in the Nevada Bank in San Francisco. There were lots of little boxing matches to entertain the crowd. Then at last Corbett appeared in the ring, and the 8,000 people present went mad with enthusiasm. My two artists went mad about his form. They said they had never seen anything that came reasonably near equaling its perfection except Greek statues, and they didn't surpass it. Corbett boxed 3 rounds with the middleweight Australian champion. Oh, beautiful to see. Then the show was over, and we struggled out through a perfect wash of humanity. When we reached the street, I found I had left my optics in the box. I had to have them, so Simmons said he would go back and get them, and I didn't dissuade him. I couldn't see how he was going to make his way a single yard into that solid, oncoming wave of people, yet he must plow through it full 50 yards. He was back with the shoes in 3 minutes. How do you reckon he accomplished that miracle? By saying, "Wait, gentlemen, please. Coming to fetch Mr. Corbett's overshoes." The word flew from mouth to mouth, the Red Sea divided, and Simmons walked comfortably through and back dry-shod. Simmons, this was revealed to me under seal of secrecy by Reed, is the hero of Gwen, and he and Gwen's author were once engaged to marry. This is Fire Escape Simmons, the inveterate talker, you know. Exit in case of Simmons. I had an engagement at a beautiful dwelling close to the Players for 10:30. I was there by 10:45. 30 cultivated and very musical ladies and gentlemen present, all of them acquaintances, and many of them personal friends of mine. That wonderful Hungarian band was there. They charged $500 for an evening. Conversation and band until midnight, then a bite of supper. Then the company was compactly grouped before me, and I told about Dr. B.E. Martin and the etchings, and followed it with the Scotch-Irish christening. My, but the Martin is a darling story. Next, the head tenor from the opera sang half a dozen great songs that set the company wild, yes, mad with delight. That nobly handsome young Damrosch accompanying on the piano. Just a little pause. Then the band burst out into an explosion of weird and tremendous dance music. A Hungarian celebrity and his wife took the floor. I followed. I couldn't help it. The others drifted in one by one, and it was Onteora over again. By 4:30, I had danced all those people down, and yet was not tired, merely breathless. I was in bed at 5 and asleep in 10 minutes. Up at 9, and presently at work on this letter to you. I think I wrote until 2 or 1:30. Then I walked leisurely out to Mr. Rogers'. It's called 3 miles, but it is short of it. Arriving at 3:30, but he was out, to return at 5:30. And a person was in whom I don't particularly like. So I didn't stay, but dropped over and chatted with the Howells until 6. First, Howells and I had a chat together. I asked about Mrs. H. He said she was fine, still steadily improving, and nearly back to her old best health. I asked, as if I didn't know, "What do you attribute this strange miracle to?" "Mind cure. Simply mind cure." Lord, what a conversion! You were a scoffer 3 months ago. I wasn't. You were. You made elaborate fun of me in this very room. I did not, Clemens. It's a lie. How's you did? I detailed to him the conversation of that time, with the stately argument furnished by Boyson and the fact that a patient had actually been killed by a mind curist, and Howells's own smart remark that when the mind curist is done with you, you have to call in a regular at last, because the former can't procure you a burial permit. At last he gave in. He said he remembered that talk, but had now been a mind curist so long it was difficult for him to realize that he had ever been anything else. Mrs. H. came skipping in presently, the very person to a dot that she used to be so many years ago. Mrs. H. said, "People may call it what they like, but it is just hypnotism, and that's all it is, hypnotism, pure and simple. Mind cure, the idea. Why, this woman that cured me hasn't got any mind. She's a good creature, but she's dull and dumb and illiterate, and now Eleanor. I know what I'm talking about. Don't I go there twice a week? And Mr. Clemens, if you could only see her wooden and satisfied face when she snubs me for forgetting myself and showing by a thoughtless remark that to me weather is still weather, instead of being just an abstraction and a superstition. Oh, it's the funniest thing you ever saw. And when she tilts up her nose, it's that kind of a nose that, now, Eleanor, the woman is not responsible for her nose." And so on and so on. It didn't seem to me that I had any right to be having this feast, and you not there. She convinced me before she got through that she and William James are right. Hypnotism and mind cure are the same thing, no difference between them. Very well. The very source, the very center of hypnotism is Paris. Dr. Charcot's pupils and disciples are right there and ready to your hand without fetching poor dear old Susie across the stormy sea. Let Mrs. Mackay, to whom I send my best respects, tell you whom to go to learn all you need to learn and how to proceed. Do it, honey. Don't lose a minute. At 11 o'clock last night, Mr. Rogers said, "I am able to feel physical fatigue, and I feel it now. You never show any, either in your eyes or your movements. Do you ever feel any?" I was able to say that I had forgotten what that feeling was like. Don't you remember how almost impossible it was for me to tire myself at the villa? Well, it is just so in New York. I go to bed unfatigued at 3. I get up fresh and fine 6 hours later. I believe I have taken only one daylight nap since I have been here. When the anchor is down, then I shall say, farewell, a long farewell to business. I will never touch it again. I will live in literature. I will wallow in it, revel in it. I will swim in ink. Joan of Arc. But all this is premature. The anchor is not down yet. Tomorrow, Tuesday, I will add a P.S. if I've any to add. But whether or no, I must mail this tomorrow, for the mail steamer goes next day. 5:30 p.m. Great Scott, this is Tuesday. I must rush this letter into the mail instantly. Tell that sassy Ben I've got her welcome letter, and I'll write her as soon as I get a daylight chance. I've most time at night, but I'd rather write daytimes. Samuel.